एक मिनट रुको रिकॉर्डिंग चालू हो रही है साइलेंट
Hello friends, welcome again to Session-5. Today we will learn file systems. Yes. Today we will learn how can you write file from modules programming.
रिकॉर्डिंग चालू हो रही है
You also learn how can you control all the file systems like hello friends, welcome again to Session-5. Today also file types we will learn file systems. Yes. So lots of the things are here. Today we will learn how can you write file. Let's start with file systems. Modules programming.
रिकॉर्डिंग चालू हो रही है
You also this file systems is like input output file system like it's hello friends, welcome again to Session-5. Today also file types if you want to file systems. Yes, file systems are things here. Today we will learn how can you write file. Let's start with file systems. Modules programming.
रिकॉर्डिंग चालू हो रही है
You also today we learn file systems, and we also learn how lots of the methods, functionalities, properties, and types of the file systems. Now we start with file systems. File systems is like a input output and is wrapped around standard POSIX functions. If you want to import file system in your programs, then you need to write like required file systems module. Two types of the process there, like a synchronous and asynchronous. You will be read and write any other operations, synchronous and asynchronous. Asynchronous methods take a last parameters as a comparison of functions as like callback functions, and first parameter of the callback functions it's a error, and now I suggest to you you use asynchronous methods instead of the synchronous methods, because asynchronous method is never block the process, and synchronous process block the process, and it's a delay to next request. So we every time use the asynchronous process. Now we can check it. How can difference between the asynchronous and synchronous process, and what a difference between the performance and execution process. See, we create one files is a input.txt and just write some text in the input files, and we just create one JS file like main.js, and we just write to codes. First import the modules is the FS file system modules. We have like two process, asynchronous read process and synchronous process. So we just going to define just throw examples. Asynchronous reads when we read the files using a file systems, and the first parameter is like a file names, and this one's callback functions. And if any error between the process is print the errors and return back to request. And next is after the finish this process, this print the content of the files. This one is a asynchronous process using a callback functions here. Now asynchronous means now is a synchronous reads, synchronous process. When we work with synchronous synchronous process, so we can see here fs.read file sync, and file name is there, and afterwards we just read the contents of the files and print in consoles, and at the end program ends. Now we run this program using nodes. You can see the output. See, you can see here first the synchronous process executed here, and afterwards program ended, and at the end this one's asynchronous process call, and this one's and afterwards this callback functions is finished process, and after completion of the callback functions it's print this one's asynchronous read file the content of the files. So you can see here synchronous synchronous process, it's wait for the response from the methods, and after finish of the process it is going to next executions instructions, and asynchronous process never will wait the next commands, and they continue to pass the next instructions. Now we have different examples with the file systems. Start with the open files. In file system we need to open files in different parameters, different way to open these files. See here lots of parameters is there here, and if using a file systems using open methods, total have 4 parameters. One is a path is a string, maybe file names, also including the name of the full path or the file names depend on the files. And you can see here flex is a behavior of the file open, is possible to all the values is mentioned below, like modes. These modes apply when file is going to create its default is 066, means is readable writables, this one defaults, and callback functions at the end of the all functions they return the callback functions. And callback functions have 2 arguments, one is the error and another file data. Also we can see flex, different of the flex available for the file systems. One is the read, which is open file for reading. If you want to open files as a reading, then you just use R as a flex, and it's a file error when file does not exist. R plus means the file open with read and write modes, and its exception occurs if the file does not exist. Third method is the RS. If you want see synchronous modes, then using RS modes, and same happens in the RS plus, is reading and writings as a synchronous modes with also file error if file does not exist. These write modes. Write modes open the file for writings, and it's create if file does not exist. Otherwise, overwrite and truncate the all contents, means this overwrites the files. We have like a WX. WX like a fails if path is not exist or file does not exist. Okay, these ones. And W plus is like open the files reading plus write, and it's create if file does not exist, and also truncate all the files. Same thing as a WX. WX plus is the same thing like W plus, but is fail if file does not exist. And the ninth one is like AX. This one appending the 2 files. AX like if fails the file does not exist, and A plus same things like plus means for the readings and appendings. The files is created if does not exist. X plus is same function to the A plus and plus, but it's failed if file does not exist. Now we go through one examples to test this about the examples. You can see here totals 12 flags is available. You can use whatever the requirement as per the specification of the programs. Read, write, then appends. This is main functionalities of this flags of the file. Now we go through examples. We just create one file. This is main.js, and also create one input.text files. So you can see here in below examples, we just create one module, import the modules. Is asynchronous opening the files, we just print the console logs, means the file going to, this program going to execute it, going to open files, and we use open method to open these files in read plus write modes, and this one called by functions. When this compresses the functions, it's this is called by functions call, and if found any errors between the process, then is a print errors in consoles and return back to the functions. And at the ends, this finish with like a file open successfully in consoles. When you run these programs, you can see here the first consoles, this print here going to open files, and next command is if successfully open the file and successfully read this full contents, means this one's print file open successfully. Now we can run these programs through consoles in a in command prompt. File systems. I just created one of input txt files. Have it here to run is there, and these were main.js files where we going to execute asynchronous and asynchronous process. You can check it. How can these ones? No. We can see here asynchronous modes. You can see here first synchronous process finish this process, and at the end the programs ended with the consoles, and finish this execution of the program ended the asynchronous process running backgrounds, and callback functions print the content of the files with this one asynchronous reads, and means this is on the asynchronous, and we are also going to open the open file examples. These ones we also test these programs on the consoles. Here on the input file is there, input txt file is there, this one main.js, you can see here. We just print on consoles, and we using the open method to read this input txt files. We just start with only read functions, read flex, and call function to print these ones. Now we can run this project. We just go through these folders, open file directories. There we just run this. We just share these files. You can see here files open successfully. Okay, and if we print this one file content, we can also test with different examples. You can see here this one file opens, and it's written with a flags with the contents. Now we can see in different modes. These are read modes. If a file does not exist, then what happens? You can see here this comment these ones and open these ones. and we put just remove these files. And we try to input one .txt files, but this file does not exist, means print here with error codes. We just set these files and run again these files. You can see here file is print the errors because the file or directory does not exist, so is print the errors. Now we can we also test these ones. If file does not exist, what happens, and if read in different modes like R plus something is there. If we try with different modes, read plus write modes, I just comment, and this is read and write modes, these are the same things. Just try with write modes. You can see here I just try with input1.txt files. This file does not exist in this folder, and we try with w modes and with write modes, and you can see here what happens when we try with these flags. If this is open file, this is for writing modes, and file is created if does not exist, or truncate is means truncate the files if they exist. Now we can just test it. This one input.txt files, save it these files and run these programs. You can see here one file created, name is a input.1txt files. Means you can use these one flags in different functionalities and different methods. Now we just now we go into next get file informations. File have lots of the informations. You need to check what the file size, what is the directories of this, this file, its files, as you can see here lots of the description of it there. If is files, is directory, is a block device, okay, otherwise is a character device, is a symbolic links. You also know some symbolic link in Linux or in Linux systems, and is a one I like a FIFO modes type file type is physical mode, and I want the checks. It's a socket file types. Socket file type is there. You can check this one different methods. Now how can it check the status of the file using the state methods? So you can see here this one file system has the set methods. Total 2 parameters there. One is the path. Path is maybe strings or file name with including path, and callback functions. Callback functions have 2 parameters. One is the errors, one is the status. And what is status? Status is the object of the FS system types, which we printed it here. And we can see here several methods as FS status. And how can you can use these functions in programming? So you can see one is created on the JS files. They are we import the file system modules, and we just print the consoles. This one informations, and we just information of the input.txt files, what the status of the files, and these callback functions, the call one the comparison of functions, and its print of the status of these files. And if at the end we just also check it. This first status is the files, among the directory, among the FIFO, among the symbolic links. We can you can use the about the properties of the status. And when it runs these files, you can see different outputs. You see here this one file status, and you can see here this files yes true, is directory is false. It means it is depend on the file structures and file types. Now we can check in the consoles for different file types. Now we got these ones, file types, get file informations. I want txt files, and we same things procedures. Just write first consoles, and this one state mode methods. It's read the input.txt files and is called by functions. It's print error if exception occurs. Here print the status of the return back to this callback functions, and just after finish these functions we just print the consoles. And we also check the file types, is the files or directories. You can also check this just check it. We just go this one's folders, this one's, and we just type just Node.js files. You can see here this one's consoles, this one console print here. After this one statistics of the files. So you can see here when the files created, okay, and you can see here at time of the MS different information the file is here, and at the end we just print the files file types. Is the files is true and its directory is false. If directory means is given different things there. I just was just going to open these ones file systems, and just we create one folders, start these ones test one, just go create one folders. We just try to get information say one file or directory. We just here test one, just try to with these ones, just try with these ones. You can see here the status is the files, and you can see here is files false, is directory true, because test one is a directory. You can check is a directory for files. It's a very useful when you read the file structures, and you can check it so any file is existing or not in the between the, and is a files or folders. If it's directory means you go inside of the directory and just read the file their childs, okay, and that means you easy for the finding the childs and parents folders and file folder and files. Now we can check also this ones is socket or device. We check it is symbolic links. We check it, this one is one, just copy and paste here, is directory symbolic links. We also check this one's symbolic links. Let's check it this one files. So we can see here is not file, is directory, is not symbolic files. Now we learn how can write writing to files. Means lots of times you need to write the content to the files with different properties, using the content to the files using a write file methods. It's have like different parameters. One of the file names I just mentioned these things. It's is one of file names or including path and data, maybe strings or buffers. It's whatever you want to write in the files. And different options is third parameters is options, and this you can see here this hold with three combinations like encodings, modes and flag. Default encoding type is user-height, and you can also change with different file types. You learned in previous sessions what the file type is there. And ZS modes. Mode is like octet values 0666 means read-write modes with different groups and users. You can change also this one modes, but default is 0666 modes. And at the end the flag is like a file flag modes, is a read, write, and you just learn in about the topics here. Different the flag is available here. So these options, and at the end the callback. Callbacks is get a single parameters, it's error, it's if any errors in writing writing files. Now we check we just test and check this one for small project programs. File name is Node.js. We just import this file system modules and print in consoles. Like if we're going to this write into the existing files. This one we use write files methods. We going to write in input.txt files. We just simply write easy some text, and it's the last parameter is a callback functions with single parameters error. We print errors if between the process if any error found between the process, and we just print the data item successfully, and we just read this is a newly written file with data. This fns, this one read files. We just read the same files input.txt, and this one called back functions. This was error handlings, and at the end we just print the data of the files. Now we can when we're going to run these files, you can see here output. Just this one print the going to write this into the existing files print here. Afterwards, this one's callback functions. Okay, if error is there, then this one data is successfully, and this one next this afterward print this one lines, and at the end we read same files, the input txt files, and print the content of the files. You can see here the files file content is like a simply easy learnings, which text written by the write files by methods. Now we check these programs in consoles, so you can easy to understand. Write files. I just copy. Just paste here. Now we can now we can see here the input text file is here with like this one text, and we're going to write on the same files. What happens when I'm going to these same files means this one truncate, and it's is write by new text. We just try with these small programs. Same things here. I just try to this one files, this one input text files, and we try with just write this one simple text, and after the write the files, we just read these same files, and you can see here what happens when this function is going to execute. Just we move to this one same files directory. We just print this one programs. You can see here. Just first print this going to write this existing files, and then print this one's data. You can see here data written successfully, and it's print the next lines, and after at the end of this process we just read these same files, and you can see here this one file contains note. You can see here this one's truncate, and it is override by like this one text. If it does not exist, this will also be created by, because it's a write modes. If file does not exist, it's created by these functions. Now you can learn reading the files. How can you read files using the read functions with lots of the parameters and functionalities available is there. Reading the files. After the writing of files, okay, after the process of the finish the, like you just see here, after the open files you need to like read. And so how can read the files? Just have different parameters there. This one read functions have a fd. fd is like a file decryptor to read the files. File decryptor means these ones, file decryptors to read these one files. And buffer, this one buffers of the data, which means you want to write on this files. And offset, offset means means what's offset you need to in the buffers to writing the files. And length, length is integers, is specified number of the bytes to read. And this one positions, positions is like integers, specify the beginning of reading the from the files. It's maybe if the positions nulls data read from the current file positions. You can see in a, we can see in examples. These are different here. And at the end of the callback functions, after the completion of the process, is callback functions code. We just try with the examples, and you can also execute different parameters, and we can test with different file parameters. So you can see here, one is like a, we just import the modules, and we just create buffer, and buffer size is 11 was 1 KB, which is print the consoles. And we open the input text files in read and write modes. Is a error handlings. I mean just print the consoles, file open successfully, and afterwards we're just going to read the files. This one process. FD, what is the FD? Is it like a file for file decryptors is coming from here. And you can see buffers. Buffer is this object of these ones. And we just start with offset 0. We is not going to put any offsets. And what length is theirs? Total buffer length is 194, and it's a default positions. And for read the files, and this callback functions. If any errors, this one function handle this error. And this one's consoles, this one bytes, to bytes is read by this callback functions. And at the end we just confirms if bytes greater than 0, this one's consoles print the buffers slicings between the 0 to bytes, and print it's a humanables contents. Like if you can see is all the content in encoded, so we need two human-readable forms to using the two string functions. These ones you learn in previous sessions how can you slice buffers and different functions. Now we can execute these programs. You can see here this one going to open the existing files, find open successfully here. Also going to next files. Total file contents is 97. H means greater than 0, yes. Then print this full total 1 to 1024 bytes here. Now execute this one programs and console, and run, and you can see with how can it executes in live modes. You can see here one input text files, and we just paste all the programs lines here. Here one of the is like FS modules. Is just import for FS modules, create buffers, and we try to input txt files plus write modes. This is on callbacks. Now we can start the execute programs. So you can see different. We just go this directory. Need to change directory. This one's I will execute these programs. You can see here file open successfully, and this is going to read the files. Total 97 byte reads, and print this file contents here. Now we can just test with this one's buffer, this one's offset. What happened when we just put offset maybe 10s? Now check it. What happens when the offset change? Now we can check it here. This is because errors, because the value length out of range, it must be greater than 0 or less than 1019, and it means you have to offsets as per the file as per the buffers. And if you put length buffer length, this 1024 total is charged. And you also positions from where to starts. If you put any tennis here, you can see output different. See what happens. It starts from the 10th positions, the files. What the file content is theirs? This one start from here. See current sessions. This one start from here. This keeps this is 10, means how from where to start this, read the files. Now you test with different parameters values as per the condition and parameters values. It's helpful when the read the files and contents, and you need to have to you also store in buffers, and they read the buffers, and I also print the human variables using the two strings instance. Now like closing files. When we open any files, you need to close, because if more than one users open the file in read modes, we also need to close, because another user is going to use, other users going to write the same files. So we need to close every files which ones open for the read modes. So we just check it. If you want to close files using the close functions, have two parameters, one is the fd and the callback. Fd, what is fd? Is like a file descriptors written by this file opens methods, and callback is a callback functions, and is a no argument if exceptions is written by those compression functions, callback functions. We just try with one main just functions. We just import the file system modules, and others we create one buffers. Total size is 1024. We just print these consoles like going to open these existing files. Now this one files open input text files in read plus write modes, and this one callback functions is execute on the complete on the process. Afterwards, you can see that we print one consoles. There it says the file open successfully, and next line is go to read the files. We also read these files in same parameters, which one experiment with previous one examples. After read these files, finish this process, we just close these files using the fd. This one like a file descriptors, and is a callback functions have only one parameters is error, is exceptions if an error is found between the process, and have two parameters. See, you can see here one of the fd is another callback functions. It prints errors if errors occurs between the process, and at the end of the process we just print the file closed successfully. Now we can execute this one's files, and you can see outputs. This is a print the consoles is going to open the existing files, and next is the file open successfully, this one, and next is going to date files, and next line is current sessions providing the online trainings. As you can see here, this one about the text files, and at the end, because we print years, we buy to get on zeros, and at the end the file closed successfully. Now we can test with with this example in consoles. Now we just close these ones, just try with this one's. We change the text of the input files, and let's try with close files here. One of the input files have contained 2 lines, and this one project, there we import totals 1 modules and one other declare the buffers, and we allocate with the 1024 by length of the bytes. Now just print through consoles, and when this opens the files input text in read plus write modes, and this one call functions is going to call after completion the functions. It's end endings. This one's consoles. After reading the files, okay, you can see here we're just going to print the content of the files and enumerables, and at the end we just close same files what happens through open functions, and it's have like two parameters. Is a file descriptors, and this is one of the as a call functions. Only one parameters like error if any error is there, and at the end we just print the cons file close successfully. When going to run these programs, we just move this one for this one directory, this one different directories there. We just try to run these programs. The file name is main.js. When this print these programs, you can see here the first print is going to open the existing files, whatever the print whatever the put in console logs. See, next is file successfully. Afterwards, just see here current sessions it provided this one file contents after reading the files, and at the end we just close files, and the file close file going to close this one console print here. This is simple examples. Now you learn totals totals here. Now you learn open functions and get file information functions, these statex this one state functions methods. Then you also learn how can you write files, and you also learn this one read methods. You also learn cross methods. Now you can learn truncate files methods and delete file methods, and also you learn how to create a directory, and how can you read directory, and how can you remove directory. So we just start with truncate files. If you want truncate the files using this one's f truncate functions, total have 3 parameters: fd, length, and callback. This one file descriptors is written by the fs open function methods, and length is of files after which you will be truncated, and callback functions have no arguments. Exceptions maybe occurs in the completion of the callback. So we just start with this one's small examples. We just import the modules, and we just create one buffers. We just print console is going to open the Excel files. We just open the files. Same here, things here. Now we just truncate to open files if using a f truncate functions. This one fd, this one say like a file descriptors. It's written by the callback functions, and we just truncate from the start position tens. After the position tens, we just truncate all the data from the files and at the end the callback functions with errors. You can see here it's a handling functions. If any errors, this prints the consoles. Otherwise, this is a file truncate successfully, and we're just going to read the same files. What happens after truncate the files? You can see using the read files, same thing here, and we're just going to print this one file contents using a postings, and at the end we just close the files whatever opens for the read and open files. We just close the same files. Now we can see what happened when we're going to truncate the files. So is executed first the files. We're going to open the existing files. File open successfully. Then we're just going to truncate the files after 10 bytes, and this message the file truncate successfully. Now we're going to read the files, and you can see here going to read the same files, and you can see here current SE means total. We just given instructions truncate after 10th positions of the files, means after 10th position of the files all the data truncated and print only current SE, and afterwards this file is going to close. You can see in the examples what happens when we run these programs in consoles. Now we can see we have like a full text is here, and when we're going to execute this one file, first to open the files, then we truncate these files and truncate all the positions after the 10th positions. We truncate the files. After truncates, we're just going to read the files, and at the after they read the files, we just print the content of the files, and at the end we just close the open file, and we print consoles in every methods and functions. You can see here. Now we can execute the same programs. We can see what happens when we just move the different directories, because this directories different. We just runs. You can see here going to open the exiting files, then file open successfully, then going to truncate the files after 10 bytes, file truncate successfully, then I'm going to read the files and file contain only currency. You can see here this one's okay, means remains the file contents is removed after 10th positions, because we just mentioned here truncate the file after 10 positions. This is the end of the files after which the files will be truncated. Now you can also delete the files using the unlinked functions. I have two parameters. One of the path, maybe strings, maybe it's including the full paths, okay, and it's callback functions. It is a callback function arguments other than the exceptions, and we can see here one of the small examples here. When the unlinked the input text files, if everything is fine, this callback functions completions, and it will print this one file delete successfully. So we just type with these files, we just when they run these programs, you can see here file delete successfully message print here. Now we type with delete methods. We just create one file. You can see here I want to input txt files. When executing these programs is using the unlinked methods, and I just going to delete this one input txt and it's delete from this directory and print after successfully finish these functions. It prints out in consoles file deleted successfully. I'm going to run these programs. We can just move these ones. Now you can see here, we can just run these programs. What happened here? File delete successfully, and you can see here the input this input files is deleted. The input txt file deleted from these folders, and it's print file deleted successfully. Now we learn how can create directory, how can read directory, and how can you remove the directory from this. Then you can see here, first is a create directory using a make directory. First total 3 parameters there. On the path is the directory names including the paths, and is the modes. If we need permission to sets, then we just using this mode methods, and default is 077 0%, and this one callback functions have no any arguments even the other than the possible exceptions is between the completion of the callback. Now when we execute these one functions in a small programs, so you can see here using the make directory, I will try to create one directories, and if the successfully finish the this one functions, the callback functions go to come here, and this prints directory create successfully message print, and you can see yes where is like we just try to create one folders. After finish the create the directory, and then also print the successful message here, and same things here. Read directories have to read directories have a two parameters. Okay, one is the path, one is callback, and method name is a read directory. This one's like this one is a make directory, and this one read directory, this one path, this one callback. When we try to read directories, and it returns the array, and you can read using the for each functions, and to print the file informations here in consoles. You can see here when the execute programs, this one read directory, read these folders, and print all the file names. See here whatever the file names existing in the current directory. Now if you want to remove directory, then use rm directory functions have two functions, they have parameters. One of the path, one of the callback functions. Path is a directory names including paths, and callbacks have no arguments other than the exceptions occurs between the completion of the callback. We same things here. We just try with remove directory functions method names, and we just try to remove the one test called test directory, and we just you can see here the callback functions. It's print errors between the if any errors occurs between the completion of the callback functions, and we just start to read directories. We just verify whether this directory is removed or not. Just start to read directory and just read directory from some methods, and we just print the whole directory in this using the for each loops. And you can, when we run these programs, you can see here the test file this one test directory removed from the this one current directory. And when we try these one programs in our consoles, you can see in different scenario. this first we just create one directory, make directory. This one directory is in this one's got directories and test, and you can see what happens here. If after the create a directory, we try this make directory function methods, and we just given a full path in and we just try to create this one test for test directory in this in this one directory structures, and we also remove the directory. Okay, we also remove directory, same things what the created in the previous one examples, and we also read the same things through read directory functions, and print the all the files what in these file structures. And we also have read directory methods to read the all the files is existing in current directories. Now we run those three programs. First start the make directory functions. We just start with move this directory, and you can see here when we just nodes, you can see here test directory created here, and we went now we just read this directory, this one directories, this one's node, and what the file name is there, read dot directories is named is different. You can see here totals four files there and one directories. So it's print all the files and directory names here. Now we can remove these directories. Okay, though using the remove directories, and we just try to delete test directory which one's created in make directory functions. Now we just try to delete these functions. This one's just the program name is like a file name is remove directory JS. We just read what happened is there. You can see here this one remove the test. Okay, you can just see here, and what is yours going to directory test is going to read remove files, and when we're going to read this one name is different, is for errors, so we just push change this file names and directory names here, and same thing repeats in against this one's nodes, and just try to create directories. Let's create directories. Now we reach directory, they throw this one files. You can see the total file is there. Now we just remove this one files to these ones new directories. You can see here now we remove. Now we can see here remove test folders removed from here, and you can see here totals four files there, and test folders is not there because it is deleted through the remove directory functions. Now you learn almost methods of the file systems, and have a huge functionality of the file systems. I just covered the most used by the users and developers, and this one is functions. And if you want to go in more in depth, then just go through Node.js documentations. Their file system is there, and you just see here lots of functions available. Now status, lots of the status is here. You can just go through this ones, and you can see now you can see one the new features of the promise. If you want to asynchronous, and then you use the promise is these ones promise APIs. It is under development process in the development zeros, where so I just given introductions how can you handle this one things. I just introduce on the methods how can you use it. This one just examples. I just paste here cross functions. You can see here just one file systems, and we're using the promise functions require this one same thing modules, and we just extend the promise methods, extend these ones as sequence methods, and we just try to this one functions promise with the huge examples. So what happens here when this read file is synchronous? This name is input text files. We just try to the files, and we just save these files. This one's promise. I just write with promise.js, and this is a file extension JS. So I just file save with files, and we just put this asynchronous modes. We put this asynchronous modes and just create one of the methods. Method name is truncate. We just create one the variables file handles, and we just try to read this one's files, and also truncate this method truncate the file from the fourth positions. And you can see here I promise upon the files read plus write modes, and this await process, and after finish this process we're just going to truncate the files, and finally we just if is successfully finish this process, and then we just close these files, and at the end we just print read file synchronous, and this one files is name is input text, and is type is UTF-8. Okay, and how can I call these functions? Do truncate. If any errors, this console these errors. We just we just call these functions like this. We'll just call these functions node promise functions. So now this file is not exist. This one need to change because your file is there. Input.txt file is there. So we just run again. Now we can see here what happens when this file runs, like node.point when you print these files, the current sessions is providing online trainings because the this one files current file content is like, because before previous ones the file content, and we just again to check it because we truncate these files, so we need to again to check it. I just save these files, this one 2 lines, and we just use these promise functions to truncate these files after the position of the 6. Now we're just going to run again. Now we can see here this one truncate after the 6 positions. You have to alternate use of the promise, but it's an endless process. If you want to learn with promise functions, you can just go through these ones. Now it also given warnings. These ones in experimentals, okay, means it's not stable. If you want it's in stable version, you're going to use this one promise functions. Is very useful for the Node.js. Now we also learn another functionalities like vouchers. What's vouchers? What is we can go here, vouchers. This one vouchers. Okay, when you're going to change any file names, or when you're going to close any files, or close means total 3 types of event is there. If you could change any of the files, this event trigger on the times when you going to change, and you also trace it through this ones FS vouchers. This will also need features in the file systems. You can check it. We're just going to check it. How can it work? I just created one of the folders test. Okay, you can see here, and I have one of the input for text files, and I just on programs here. I just watch on the test folders. If anything happens between this folder, okay, these This one's is inform me what happens in the files, what event type is there, is a change or close or something is there, and is given a file names. It's a is watch names, functions watch. This one function watch have like a two parameters. Is also have an encoding type is theirs. Is encodings, I just put the buffers, maybe UTF something is theirs, and have a callback functions, total two parameters theirs. One is the event types, one of the file names. Okay, these are given a file names. I just type with these functions. Okay, I just put watchers on the test folders. If anything happens on these test folders, it will be test through the watch functions. Just now test in the here. Now just open this one folder. I just open these folders, and we just try to do two different tests and then these folders, and just watch what event fire between this process. So just go to this one folders, cd watchers. We just try to this one run these programs. So this one's now is the interest modes. We can do here create one files. Just I just copy and just print here. See this one's here. Just save this file against and run on against. You can see here. This one's print the buffers. Okay, this one buffers. This one print here. This one file names. This one file names in the this one's like this one encoded. And I just try to read in human readables to using the two string functions. This one of file name, this one name of the files, which one created in the test folders, and what the event time is there. Event types is a change, is a rename. So here you can see here is a rename function. Rename is here, and now you can change. Now we're again to run this one programs. Now I just remove these programs. Now I remove this one files. See what happens here. This one renames, means if you remove these files, to also remove these files. And if I create one files, just give one input dot txt. See what happens here. You can see here this one new text documents, because when I create files are not given any names. This one's new text document text files, and I try to change the names, and afterwards print these ones new text documents and renames. After when I type the names, this will be also create one events, and at the ends I just given a names input.txt. This is the name of the files. If I open this one files, is also you can see here. I can just run these programs because you can easy to read. Now I'll just try to text anything. Paste source files. I just save it. Just close it. Now you can see here. This one's change because I changed something in the files. The event or the change for triggers is fired, and this print here. Now means you also put the watchers on the file systems. What happens in the systems, you can put the alert if going to someone's unauthenticated person delete the file, or authenticated person something happens in the file structures. You also inform the notifications. You put different type the scenario you can do with the file systems. Now we just finished this on file systems, and I hope you learn with lots of functionality of the file systems, and you will be used in your programs where you're going to work with the files. I hope you will be enjoy. Thank you to all.